The moment you stop reacting emotionally, certain people start losing control over you. And that is exactly why toxic people hate calm people. Not because calm people are rude, not because calm people are cold, but because calm people are much harder to manipulate. And if you stay until the end of this video, you are going to understand something most people never realize until very late in life. Some people were never trying to communicate with you peacefully. They were trying to control your emotional state. And the moment you stop giving them emotional access, their real behavior starts revealing itself immediately. Have you ever noticed how some people become even more aggressive when you stay calm? You stop arguing, they get louder. You stop explaining yourself, they become frustrated. You stop reacting emotionally, and suddenly they accuse you of not caring. That reaction tells you everything. Because healthy people usually appreciate calm communication, toxic people often become irritated by it. Why? Because manipulation depends on emotional reactions. Toxic people need emotional openings. They need insecurity. They need guilt. They need confusion. Because the more emotionally reactive you are, the easier you become to control. And most people never notice this while it is happening. They think the problem is communication. They think the problem is misunderstanding. They think, maybe if I explain myself better, things will improve. But many toxic dynamics are not built on misunderstanding. They are built on emotional control. That is the difference. A healthy person wants resolution. A toxic person often wants emotional leverage. That is why certain people seem uncomfortable the moment you become emotionally calm, because calmness removes leverage. Think about how manipulators behave. They provoke. They criticize suddenly. They become cold without explanation. They create emotional confusion. Then they watch your reaction carefully. Do you panic? Do you chase them emotionally? Do you over-explain? Do you become desperate to fix the tension? That reaction gives them power. Because once someone can control your emotional state, they can often control your behavior too. That is one of the oldest psychological dynamics in human relationships, and toxic people understand this instinctively. Not always consciously, but instinctively. They learn which emotions control you fastest: fear, guilt, insecurity, loneliness, need for approval. And then they pull those emotional strings repeatedly. That is why emotionally reactive people are easier to manipulate, because reaction creates predictability, and predictability creates control. But calm people interrupt that process completely. A calm person pauses before reacting. A calm person observes first. A calm person does not immediately surrender emotional control every time tension appears. And that changes the entire dynamic. Because manipulation usually works through emotional momentum. The toxic person creates tension. You react emotionally. Now they control the emotional direction of the interaction. But calm people slow everything down. And once emotional momentum breaks, manipulation becomes much harder. That is why some toxic people become even more emotional when you stay calm, because your calmness blocks access they used to have. Have you ever seen someone become angrier because you simply stayed relaxed? That reaction is not random. It reveals something deeper. Your calmness is exposing their need for control, because healthy people do not need emotional chaos to feel powerful. Manipulators often do. That is why toxic people are usually uncomfortable around emotionally grounded individuals. Grounded people are difficult to provoke, difficult to guilt, difficult to confuse, difficult to emotionally dominate. And manipulators hate environments where their emotional tools stop working. This is also why toxic people often accuse calm people of being emotionless. Not because calm people feel nothing, but because calm people stop performing emotional chaos. And manipulators often confuse emotional intensity with emotional connection. If they cannot emotionally shake you, they start feeling powerless. That is why emotional self-control is one of the most threatening things to toxic people. Not money, not status, not dominance. Calmness. because calmness destroys emotional manipulation. And most people misunderstand what calmness actually is. Calmness is not pretending not to care. It is not emotional suppression. It is not acting cold. Real calmness is emotional regulation. It is the ability to feel emotions without letting emotions immediately control your behavior. Calm people still feel hurt, still feel anger, still feel disappointment, but they do not instantly hand emotional control to another person every time tension appears. That is real emotional strength. And toxic people struggle deeply around emotionally strong individuals, because emotional strength removes manipulation opportunities. That is why emotionally immature people often create chaos around calm individuals. They test boundaries constantly. They provoke reactions. They try to pull calm people into emotional games. Why? Because chaos is familiar to them. Emotionally unhealthy people often feel uncomfortable around peace. Peace feels unfamiliar. Stillness feels threatening. Calmness forces them to face themselves, and many toxic people spend their entire lives avoiding self-awareness. That is why emotionally chaotic people often try to create emotional chaos around others too, because chaos feels normal to them. And if someone stays calm while they are emotional, they subconsciously feel exposed. That is another reason toxic people hate calm people. Calmness exposes instability. Have you ever noticed how manipulators often become more irrational when they stop getting emotional reactions from you? At first, they provoke subtly, then more aggressively, then emotionally, then through guilt, because they are trying to reopen emotional access. And when none of it works anymore, many toxic people either explode or disappear. Both reactions reveal the same thing. They were relying on emotional control. This is also why healing changes relationships so dramatically. When somebody begins healing emotionally, their reactions change, their boundaries change, their emotional availability changes, and suddenly, certain people become uncomfortable around them. Not because healing made them arrogant, but because healing removed emotional access that toxic people depended on. Your insecurity used to give them leverage. Your over-explaining used to give them control. Your emotional reactions used to give them influence. And once those things disappear, the relationship dynamic changes automatically. That is why some people secretly dislike your growth, not because your growth hurts them, but because your growth removes their ability to emotionally control you. And this is something many people never realize. Not everyone benefits from your healing. Some people benefited from your emotional instability. Some people benefited from your lack of boundaries. Some people benefited from your fear of rejection. And calmness removes those benefits. That is why becoming emotionally grounded changes who feels comfortable around you. Healthy people usually respect calmness. Toxic people often resent it. Because calm people become emotionally expensive to manipulate. There are no easy openings anymore, no emotional panic, no desperate need for validation, no endless over-explaining. And manipulators usually lose interest when emotional control stops working. That is why one of the most powerful things you can develop is the ability to pause emotionally before reacting, because that pause changes everything. In that pause, you stop reacting automatically. In that pause, you stop giving people instant emotional access to your nervous system. In that pause, you regain control over yourself. And emotionally toxic people hate that pause, because manipulation works fastest when emotions move quickly. That is why toxic people often create urgency emotionally. Answer me now. Why are you acting different? You've changed. Why are you being cold? The goal is pressure. Pressure creates emotional reactions, and emotional reactions create openings for control. But calm people stop responding automatically to emotional pressure. That is what makes them powerful, not dominance, not aggression, self-control. Real emotional power is quiet. It does not need to yell. It does not need dramatic comebacks. It does not need to prove itself constantly. Real emotional power is the ability to remain connected to yourself while someone else is trying to pull you into emotional chaos. And once you develop that ability, your entire life changes. You stop chasing validation from unstable people. You stop feeling responsible for everyone's emotions. You stop abandoning your peace just to keep other people comfortable. And suddenly, manipulative people start losing influence over you. That is why toxic people hate calm people. Because calm people become difficult to emotionally control. And once somebody can no longer control your emotions, they usually have only two choices left: respect your boundaries or leave your life. Both outcomes protect your peace. And the beautiful part is this: calmness is not something you fake. It is something you build. Every time you stop reacting impulsively, you build calmness. Every time you stop over-explaining yourself, you build calmness. Every time you stop abandoning yourself just to avoid tension, you build calmness. And eventually, something shifts inside you. You stop needing emotional approval from everyone. You stop panicking when someone dislikes you. You stop feeling responsible for fixing emotionally unhealthy people. And for the first time in a very long time, you feel free. Not because life became perfect, but because your emotions no longer belong to everyone else around you. That is the moment manipulation starts losing power forever.